Hello, students, and anyone else who may be watching from home. This is Mr. Borges, also known as Zanzolo, and we're going to be talking about our next Scratch project. So here we are in Canvas. You can see we have a new button down here for Turtle Graphics. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it's going to bring us to our Turtle Graphics page. So let's start our next Scratch project. We're going to learn more about using pen blocks with a little math and loops to make art patterns. There's a video down here. This is the video you're watching right now, or it will be in a minute. And then here's your assignment checklist. So please make your own Scratch Turtle Graphics project. Your project needs the following things. You're going to have a sprite that you use as a pen. In this project, we call it a turtle. And that's a throwback to the old early computers, old like Commodore 64s and stuff that used to make art this way. Is the only way they could make art, and I'll show you some example of that. Then, right, you're going to use other blocks that you know: clear up, and pen down blocks, along with some move and some turn blocks to make geometric shapes. Then you're going to put these blocks into loops so that we can make those shapes over and over to make different patterns, like flower, which we'll show you an example of, or squaral, which is a square spiral, I'll show you an example of, or a triral, which is a triangle spiral, and I'll show you an example of those too. So then, of course, you're going to need a better title than untitled and some instructions. And then you're going to return to this page and submit your assignment to Canvas. Now, this is the old example. I'm going to create the new example right now with you. So here we go. I'm going to create a new project. And we can use anything we want to be the turtle. It does not have to be a turtle. You can use Scratch Cat to be the turtle if you want to. I'm going to pick something else just because Scratch Cat's already been the star of so many different projects. But it really can be anything. So I'm just going to pick Butterfly right here. And I'm going to make Butterfly much smaller. That might be a little bit too small, actually. Maybe that's okay. Something like that. I think it's fine. It's not that actually important how large your turtle is. So I'm using a butterfly for my turtle. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to have our turtle do some stuff with pen blocks. We're going to have to add that extension. Right? Add extension pen. We've done that a few times now. There we go. I'm going to get out erase all just so that right, the second and third and fourth time we run this program, it's going to erase all the stuff from previously. We're getting used to resetting our programs or setting up initial conditions this way now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pen down. I'm going to have my butterfly move 10 steps. And when I do that, right, we should not be surprised because we've used pen blocks before. We should see our butterfly drew a line. Our line's very, very short though, so we can't really see it. Let's make the line quite a bit longer. There we go, and we can see our line. So that's pretty good, right? So that we can do now, right, if we're going to, let's say we're going to draw a square shape, we're going to have to do a turn, right? Do we remember? Squares have right angles, and so we're going to have to do a turn of 90 degrees. So there we go. So we have our butterfly do a turn of, of 90 degrees. Actually, you know what we're going to do? It's not as essential for you in your project, but for me, trying to show you something over and over again in different pieces, I'm going to get out a few extra blocks just so that I can control things as we go. Okay, so we're going to do then is we're going to have the butterfly draw the line, and then it can do a turn. Right? And then we're going to basically have it draw a line again, and then do a turn again, and then draw a line again, and then do a turn again, and then draw a line again, and then it can do a turn again to get back to where it started. Right? So really what I'm doing is I'm doing these two instructions over and over, right? Repeating it 4 times. So I'm going to go ahead and get a loop and then stick that in there, right? Because a square has 4 sides. So I think people get the idea here. So now I can clear everything here, and then when we run this loop, we get our nice square. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and connect that up to there. So now what we can do, though, so let's go ahead and leave it disconnected. What I can do now is I can get one more turn. And now what I can do is I can have the butterfly do a little turn, 15 degrees, and then draw another square. And then do a turn of 15 degrees, and then draw another square. Right? And I think you get the idea of what I'm doing here. Now this I can also put into a loop. What I want to do is I want to do this loop. I want to do a little turn of 15 degrees afterwards, and then I want to do all of this over and over. So what I'm doing now is I'm nesting a loop. I can put a loop, I can put instructions with a loop inside of another loop. There we go. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear everything and then run this, and then you get the idea. Now, if I want my turtle to go all the way around and finish this, right, that's going to be finishing out, right? So we're drawing a square, then doing a 15-degree turn, and then doing it again, and then a 15-degree turn and doing it again. What we really need to do is these 15-degree steps that we're taking, each square we're doing a little 15-degree turn on. If we want to get all the way around in a circle like back to where we started, we're going to have to go 360 degrees, right? All the way around. So how many times do we need to do 15-degree steps to get to do 360? So what we're talking about is division, right? How many times then does 15 go into 360? So the answer in this case, right, is going to be 24 times. So if I change this, how many times are we going to repeat the draw square and do a little 15-degree turn? We can do it 24 times. When we do that, I want you to watch now in the example. It's going to get right back to where it started and then be finished, right? And just completely finished the drawing, and there was no gaps or overlaps or wasted time sitting around having it draw more. And what I'm going to show you an example of that. If I just pick some big number and stick it in here, I'm going to go ahead and clear this and then go ahead and run it again. The picture is going to be identical, but once we get to here, it just keeps going around drawing over itself. And now we're sitting around waiting extra time, but just to get the exact same picture still. Right, so that was extra time, extra computer power that was kind of wasted. So this idea that since 15 times 24 equals 360, that's how we're getting all the way around. We can take advantage of that idea and pick different numbers in here, right? We can pick different numbers for 15 and 24 that still multiply out to 360. For example, I can take bigger steps, 36-degree steps. How many times is 36 going to go into 360? 10 times 36 is going to be 360. So we're going to take bigger steps between our squares. There's going to be less of them, but they're still going to complete the circular pattern. And we can see, and it'll just exactly finish. And there we go. Now we can, I'll go ahead and clear that. We can swap those. Could have used 10 down here. Take smaller steps between the squares, but have more of them. This time we're going to have 36 squares, and I'm going to run it this way. And because 10 times 36 is still 360, it's going to finish out the pattern and then stop. And there you go. And that's the big idea about flowers. So I want your project is going to have a flower. Right? So what we're going to do is, right, we're going to have more than one thing your project can do. So here's one thing it can do, right? It's going to go to where we want it to start out, which is the middle. We're going to, once we get there, we're going to erase all, make sure that the pen is down, and then we can draw our shape, right? But we don't want to leave that connected up to when the green flag is clicked, because we're going to have more than one thing that we can do. So what we're going to do is, at the end of the project, we're going to put buttons down here, and this is our code that makes our flower. Now we can definitely add more to this. You can make the squares bigger and smaller. You can change. We've learned about a lot of different things. You can change the pen color. You can change the pen thickness. Right. We can even change the pen color a little bit at a time inside our program. So, right, each time we do a turn, that's when we've also finished drawing a square. So this way, each square will be a slightly different color. And you can see you can experiment around with a lot of interesting and cool things with your Turtle Graphics program. So I'm going to leave that flower there like that. And then I'm going to talk about the next bit, which is going to be a squaral. So I'm going to go ahead and erase all again. Going to, right, so because we ended up where we were, our butterfly is not pointing in the right direction. So point in direction 90 degrees to get it back there. And then we can always get this block out to put it back in the origin. There we go. So what we're going to do now is make sort of a spiral, a square spiral. And so if you think about a regular spiral, it's a circle that just keeps getting kind of going around and around and around, but it's getting bigger and bigger as it goes. So, right, you end up getting this sort of spirally shape. Now we're going to make a square that does keep going around and around, but gets bigger and bigger as it goes. So the part that decides the length of the legs of our square is this block right here, having the turtle move 100 steps. We don't want to move 100 steps every time. If we're doing a spiral, we're going to move a different amount of steps each time. The amount, the number that's going to be in here is going to vary. So we're going to use a variable for that. So here's a variable block. We can just use this my variable that's already set up for us. And what we're going to do is we're going to, just like we reset other things with our initial conditions, we're going to start out setting it to what we want it to be. Right, so we can start out setting it to be 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get a loop. It's going to look a little bit like this, but our square this time, our squaral doesn't just have 4 sides, it can have more sides. So we can, for here, I'm just going to put, I don't know, let's just put 100 in here and see what's going to happen. And then what we're going to do is it's still going to have a 90-degree turn because it's a square spiral. So we're going to turn by 90 degrees. What we're going to do is we're going to move, but we're not going to move 10 steps every time. We're going to move a variable amount. The number I put in here is going to be a varying number. It's going to be my variable. So how many steps are we going to move? Well, it's going to start out at 0 because I've set my variable to 0. And we're going to do a turn. And then after we're done doing our turn, I don't want this to move 0 steps again. We need to change the variable a little bit. So I'm going to change my variable. Whoopsie. Okay. I misclicked there. There we go. Let's get back to the beginning. All right. So I'm going to change my variable by a bit. And I'm just going to put a number 5 in here for now. And we'll see. Well, 2. I accidentally typed a 2. Let's see what happens. And I'm going to set the pen color to something darker just so that we can see it easily. So we can go ahead and try this out now. And you can see here is our squaral, our square spiral. And the reason why the legs of each side, they keep getting too longer. So first leg started out at 0. And then each time it got 2 bigger. So the next leg was 2, the next leg was 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. You get the idea, right? So I want to keep going to fill all this in. That's just fine. I think that's a good idea, right? So 100 steps wasn't enough, but it actually got us pretty far, as you can see. I think 200 would overdo it, but it doesn't hurt anything to go ahead and try it. And then let's go ahead and put another erase all block into here. And you can see, whoopsie, right? My squaral, I wanted to start in the middle at the origin, so that's going to have to be one of my instructions also for my project, is to start at the beginning. So then we go ahead and run this. And because I did the order, I sent the turtle to where I wanted it to start, and then I erased all. It didn't show up, even though the pen was down the whole time. It did the move to the middle and then erased all, so we didn't see there. Actually, it did draw a line there, but then erased it really, really quickly. All right, so the squirrel I think is pretty good. Now, if you wanted to make a colorful squirrel, you could do the same type of thing with your change with your pen block. So we're dealing with pen blocks here. We can change the pen color. So each time we draw a line and we make the size bigger, we could also change the color. Let's just barely change it all each time, and the color will change really slowly. So we can try that out. All right, something like that. That's kind of neat. You can experiment around with your own squirrel. All right, so I'm going to move this code over here. So now we have our flower code. We have our squirrel code. And then what I'm going to do, and you see I'm just going to duplicate this whole bit right here for our triral. What we're going to do is we're going to make a triral is going to be a triangle spiral. And a triangle spiral is not going to be square. It's not going to have a 90-degree. It's not going to have 90-degree angle anymore. So to finish this one up, we're going to just change the angle size. Right, and we're talking about an outer angle here, so we're just going to change that, and then we can run this one too. And then there you go. And you can experiment around with it. I think in this case, 200 was a little bit more than we needed, so I'm going to reduce this some. We're kind of getting off the screen here. I'm just guesstimating in this case, but I think that trial looks pretty good. It was probably a little bit too much still. You can tell, right? At some point, it wasn't able to move down any further, and so that caused some goof up in the pattern of my trial. I'm just going to pick 150. That's fine. All right, so there we go. Now you definitely can experiment around with other interesting things. With this, right? So I just want to show you, just messing around with something for a minute. I just want to show you what we can do is we can have a growing sort of a triral look, and we can do that by having this inside stuff repeat 3 times, right? And then we can add a little turn to it, kind of like we did with our flower. And then we can repeat that. In this case, we're not talking about just finishing out a pattern because we want it to kind of keep going around and around. So you can see you can come up with all kinds of other interesting shapes and stuff like that. And so in this case, we're going way too far. So right, I'm reaching the edge. I'm reaching the edge of my of the stage again. But you can see, right, you can come up with combinations of trirals and flowers to come up with other interesting shapes. This almost looks like a seashell or something to me. I don't know. So that's fun and interesting too. And so I'm going to go ahead and just pick this as my custom shape. So I've got my 4 things. What I want to do is I don't want all 4 to happen when the green flag is clicked. I want the user to be able to pick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 4 buttons for myself. You're going to create buttons for your project. Buttons don't have to look like buttons, but I'm going to go ahead and have my buttons look like buttons. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into the corner. So I'm going to have 1 in each corner. And I'm going to label my button because that's a good habit, right? So one of these is going to be the flower. And you can probably already guess how this is going to go. One of them is the flower. And I think that color is pretty, but it just doesn't really show up on this button. And something like this is going to show up better. Go ahead and make your text a little bigger. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my button. Different things. So what's the code for my button going to be? We've done buttons before, right? When this sprite is clicked, I want to broadcast a message. And in this case, the message is going to be, I'm just going to call it flower. I could have called it draw flower. I could have called it I called it anything else, but that's up to you. Right? And so now what I can do is under the code for the turtle, I can tell it when I receive flower, do the flower code. So that now when I click this button, my project's going to draw the flower. Now I just need to duplicate my buttons. So duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Right, and I'm going to rename these, relabel these buttons, and then change also the message, of course, for the buttons. So this one is the squaral, which is a fun word to say. All right, so squaral, and we're going to go to the code for the squaral, and it's going to broadcast a different message called. I'm just going to name it squaral. And then I go back to the code for here, and we say when I receive message squaral, we're going to do the code for squaral, and then we try it out. And it seems like it's working pretty good. And we're going to continue on in this way, right? So I'm going to relabel this button for the triral to run my triral code. Whoopsie, my squirrel. Do you see what happened to my squirrel? The squirrel is actually going a little bit further than I want it to also. So I'm gonna reduce this by a bit. Okay, and then we can try it out. Okay. Then you're gonna do the same thing for your triral. Whoopsie, this kept going and kept going also again. It's still a little bit too far, right? Okay. So then you'll do the same thing for triral and the same thing for your custom shape, whatever that was going to be. Is it still going too far? I think that's right. There we go. Finally, I'm not going off the screen now. Anyways, so you'll finish this up. You'll have a button for trial. I have a button for combo, your own combo that you're coming up with here. Then what you're going to do is you're going to get a better title than untitled, and you're going to go to your project page and write some instructions for your project page. All right, folks. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.